Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Throne of Steel based on novel. So let's start. Long Houchin was completely enveloped by the purple light. He was no longer visible. Hao Yue's body erupted once more and directly surpassed 50 meters in length. It became a tremendous creature. Hao Yue's two new heads were differently colored as well. The left head was dark golden, with only a single eye. Compared to the other heads, the eye was clearly over a third larger. From the top of its head down its neck, there was a neat line of huge, dark golden spikes. The spike at the very top was the largest, spanning 2 meters in length. The cold, metallic luster was chilling. The single eye constantly shone, with a golden luster. The other head was black and purple, but it was not of the dark attribute, because a ball of lightning constantly flickered near its single horn, which demonstrated its element. The single horn on the huge head was very special. Below, it was jagged like lightning, while the top was a ball. It seemed rather similar to a tomato. After the two heads had emerged, Hao Yue raised his 6 other heads as well. It was just too impressive of a sight, as the 8 heads rose together. It had a mountainous body, strange, purple and iridescent scales and a terrifying aura, as well as 8 huge heads that represented 8 different elements. Currently, Hao Yue's aura had already surpassed the Night of Judgment of the Deads. Its cultivation had probably reached around the 7th rank of the 9th step. Purple light rose up from Hao Yue's body, gradually forming a purple cloud above him. As the purple cloud slowly expanded, the terrifying will of destruction forcefully purged all the filth in the air. Very soon, the entire sky became purple. Even the sun had become purple as it hung in the air. When the bright glimmer of hope saw Hao Yue, they actually felt like they were almost going to suffocate. It was too powerful. Hao Yue really had become too powerful, so powerful that they were unable to properly discern its true strength anymore. Its spiritual energy pulses had surpassed the Night of Judgment of the Dead. Just what level had its tremendous body reached? However, the only thing that the bright glimmer of hope worried about was Long Houchin's control over Hao Yue. Having surpassed Long Houchin's cultivation, and now in possession of such a powerful will of destruction, could Long Houchin still control Hao Yue? The worry that Caia had expressed to Long Houchin earlier represented what the others were thinking about as well. Hao Yue slowly unfurled its 2 huge wings, as its powerful body was supported by its 4 limbs. Its 8 heads let out a furious bellow once more, and its pupils, which flickered with different colors, turned purple at the same time. They all let out a purple breath at Long Houchin together. "What's Hao Yue doing?" Wang Yuan could not help but ask rather nervously. Kia gazed into the distance and said sternly, "We have to believe in Long Houchin's judgment." Actually, she was nervous as well. If Hao Yue really wanted to harm Long Houchin, it was already too late for them to intervene. Although they had expected Hao Yue to become extremely powerful after evolving, they never expected it to be so strong. However, Hao Yue made them stop worrying very soon. Purplish golden light flashed in the air under the 8 incoming breaths, just like one of the purplish golden scales from Hao Yue's body. The deep purplish gold color flowed around Long Houchin's body, and the 9 lines of purplish golden symbols on his forehead became brighter and brighter. The 9 lines protruded and shrank slightly on his forehead, before remaining there. This time, the 9 lines did not just appear temporarily. Instead, they remained there like markings on Long Houchin. Long Houchin's aura changed as well. Although it did not erupt like Hao Yue's, his cultivation did continue to rise. Now, all of the clothes on his body had vanished. They had all become purplish gold. The heart of eternity thumped heavily in his chest. At the same time, a ball of white light appeared in the purplish gold color. It represented Long Houchin's spiritual pellet, as well as his largest spiritual cavity. His forehead, shoulders, hips, knees and elbows lit up with white light as well, before extending downwards. Every ball of white light represented a cavity, as well as 10,000 of Long Houchin's spiritual energy. At the very beginning, there were only 39 balls of white light, but as Hao Yue's power entered, more and more white light appeared on Long Houchin. 45, 46, 47, 49. In the blink of an eye, Long Houchen's cultivation had reached the peak of the 4th rank of the 9th step. He had surpassed Kia again, and if he advanced further, he would reach the 5th rank. Reaching the 5th rank was a whole new world for powerhouses of the 9th step. It was equivalent to a great leap. The properties of the blood pact was completely exhibited at a time like this. Long Houchen and Hao Yue had always been supporting each other. Whenever one of them increased in strength, the other would gain an increase as well. Now that Hao Yue had directly evolved from 6 heads to 8 heads, the effect on Long Houchen's strength was much greater than all of the evolutions in the past. Suddenly, the purplish golden light on Long Houchen lit up. Afterwards, all of his cavities lit up as well. The white light even managed to push the purplish golden light away temporarily. The 50th cavity lit up flagrantly. The 5th rank of the 9th step. Long Houchen had finally broken through to the 5th rank of the 9th step. Hao Yue's power actually assisted him in overcoming 2 bottlenecks consecutively. His spiritual energy continued to increase, but it clearly slowed down compared to the beginning. 51, 52, 53. Upon the appearance of the 57th spiritual cavity, his spiritual energy stopped climbing and the purplish golden light gradually stabilized as well. Now, Long Houchen had truly become the greatest in the Temple Union in terms of the amount of spiritual energy. Coupled with the additional boost from the Heart of Eternity, his spiritual energy had even exceeded the starry ski Holy Knight Yang Haoyu. The light flashed and receded as Long Houchen's aura gradually grew stable. The purpleness from Hao Yue's 8 huge heads gradually faded, returning to their original color. However, their eyes shone with intimacy. Clearly, its evolution in strength did not change its feelings toward Long Houchen. The purplish golden light slightly vanished. Only the 9 lines of purplish golden symbols remained on Long Houchen's forehead. He slowly opened his eyes. His pupils were still a clear gold, but in the moment he opened his eyes, purple flashed through the depths of his eyes. Looking at Hao Yue below him, Long Houchen was deeply shocked, not by Hao Yue's strength, but by the beauty of body, as well as the effect that Hao Yue had brought onto him. His spiritual cavities had directly jumped from 39 to 57, making him truly become the greatest powerhouse of the human world. Coupled with the divine throne of eternity and creation and Hao Yue, this was the first time Long Houchen had complete confidence in challenging the demon god emperor. And his soul was growing stronger as well, which was equivalent to stronger spiritual energy. The eruption in mental force shocked him even more. Long Houchen's natural mental force was extraordinary, much more powerful than an ordinary person. After Hao Yue had evolved this time, his mental force had actually increased by more than double, which was more than enough to show how powerful Hao Yue had become. Suddenly, Hao Yue's dark golden head darted to one side. Only that head shone brightly with golden light, and in the next moment, Hao Yue's mountainous body just vanished. Long Houchen sensed something was wrong. When Hao Yue reappeared, he was several thousand meters away. Dense, purple light appeared in the air. 2 figures appeared before Hao Yue under the illumination of the purple light. Weren't they the Knight of Judgment of the Dead and the Lich King? As it turned out, they still did not trust Long Houchen's promise too much, so they had secretly snuck back. Originally, they had considered launching a sneak attack, but when Kia's 3 flourishing lotus flowers appeared in the air, they dismissed that idea. They pleaded that Long Houchen would stick to his word. Now that Hao Yue had finished evolving and its terrifying pressure was the same as 6,000 years ago, they were in utter fear. They dared not to move, afraid that Hao Yue would discover them. However, it was impossible for them to hide from Hao Yue with their cultivation. After Long Houchen's strength had increased, Hao Yue immediately set off for them. The newly grown dark golden head suddenly swung itself, and the ridge of spikes on its head immediately extended, becoming 18 terrifying metallic blades of light, slashing towards the Knight of Judgment of the Dead and the Lich King viciously. At the same time, golden light poured out from its only eye, towards the 2 of them. The 7 other heads did nothing. They only watched. When Hao Yue had appeared before the 2 of them, dense purple light had turned into a huge ring to prevent them from running away. The Lich King let out a scream, and she crossed her arms before her chest. A purple gas surged in an attempt to block the streak of golden light. However, the golden light tore through it without the slightest resistance, directly landing on her body. The Lich King immediately turned into a golden statue, and afterwards, the 18 huge metallic blades rained down. At this moment, if the Knight of Judgment of the Dead insisted on fleeing, he still might have had a choice. After all, Hao Yue had just finished evolving, so his powers were not exactly stable, and he had targeted the Lich King first. Even if Hao Yue completely overwhelmed the Knight of Judgment of the Dead in terms of his element, it was still possible for him to charge out of the purple light, with his cultivation, at the 7th rank of the 9th step. However, the Knight of Judgment of the Dead did not do that. With a flash, he blocked in front of the Lich King and raised his dark purple sword. He produced a blur of lights and blocked Hao Yue's attack. Heavy clangs constantly erupted in the air. The Knight of Judgment of the Dead was actually beaten into a retreat by Hao Yue's new dark golden head. Roar! The 7 other heads all produced a furious roar. In the next moment, a bright purple light haze expanded from Hao Yue's body. Although the people of the Bright Glimmer of Hope did not take part in this battle, they were all powerhouses, so they could sense what Hao Yue was about to do in the distance. Lin Xin could not help but say, is that an 8-element essence of disorder? Have any of you ever heard about magic that mixes elements? Although Sima Xian's eyes had widened in shock as well, he continued to add sarcastically, "It's strange only because you rarely see it. Haven't you seen it now? It's far too powerful." Yes, it really was far too powerful. It was an 8-element essence of disorder, and it was used instantly. When the bright purple light slammed into the Knight of Judgment of the Dead and the Lich King, spiritual energy surged out of both of their bodies. In particular, the Knight of Judgment of the Dead, who stood at the front, had all of his darkness, which represented the darkness element dragoned. The huge sword in his hand lost its luster as well. At this moment, the blades of light from Hao Yue's dark golden head quickly fused into a huge blade, striking down towards the Knight of Judgment of the Dead brazenly. At the same time, a thick, purple haze spewed out from his 7 other heads, such that the knight could not even escape anymore. It was also at this moment that the Lich King, who had broken free from being covered in golden color, suddenly appeared in front of the Knight of Judgment of the Dead. She spread her arms and seemed like she wanted to use her body to block the terrifying attack. A cold light flashed through Hao Yue's dark head. Block it. What a joke. Once that blade fell, both undead kings would be dead. In this critical moment, a translucent white light suddenly appeared. Clang! A sharp vibration rang out, so intense that the bright glimmer of hope in the distance could not help but clutch their ears. The Knight of Judgment of the Death and the Lich King retreated together. Hao Yue was surprised. He looked at the figure he had knocked away and did not pursue him. Wasn't it Long Haochen who had blocked the Knight of Judgment of the Dead and the Lich King? Roar, grr. Hao Yue's 8 heads growled in confusion. Only by actually receiving Hao Yue attacks could Long Haochen understand just how terrifying it had now become. Long Haochen's arms that clutched the Sword of Eternity both became numb upon taking on the strike. And a terrifying will of destruction circumvented the Sword of Eternity and left a white mark on the armor of eternity. Although the white mark quickly vanished, Long Haochen could still sense the frenzy brought on by the aura of destruction. Hao Yue, enough. Long Haochen said seriously, I promise them that if they don't disturb your evolution anymore, we'll spare them. They can't threaten you anymore, so just let them go. The Knight of Judgment of the Dead and the Lich King had basically just escaped death. They stared at the man in the armor of eternity blankly. Their feelings were extremely mixed. He really did carry out his promise. He had stopped Austin Griffin from killing them. Hao Yue continued to growl, clearly unwilling to spare these 2 undead kings. Long Haochen snorted angrily, if you really want to do it, then kill me first. He valued his promises dearly. Moreover, he felt a slight unease from the terrifying aura of destruction from Hao Yue. Hao Yue's 8 heads blinked their eyes at the same time and the growling stopped. It flapped its wings and approached Long Haochen closely. Its 8 heads extended over together. Be careful, the Lich King could not help but call out. Long Houchen remained where he was. Hao Yue's dark golden head glared at the Lich King, before nudging Long Houchen's body gently with its 7 other kids. From how it seemed, it was no different from a pet fawning over its master. The Night of Judgment of the Dead and the Lich King were completely stunned. In their minds, Austin Griffin was a terrifying existence. How was it possible for it to be so close to a human? And it had clearly expressed subservience. In other words, it had agreed to the human and decided to stop hunting them down. Sensing Hao Yue's closeness with a hint of indignation, Long Houchen's expression eased up. He gently touched the 2 new heads and said, I understand your indignation, but the only way for grievances to be settled is through reconciliation. Moreover, they can't threaten you anymore. If I've guessed correctly, you must have caused them great pain in your past life, or they wouldn't treat you like this. If you keep looking for revenge, when will this matter be put to rest? Just let them go. Hao Yue nodded gently and stopped persisting. Ever since it had followed Long Houchen, this was the first time Long Houchen had gotten mad at him. It made it feel afraid, so it obviously would not persist with what it wanted. Long Houchen looked at the Night of Judgment of the Dead and the Lich King. He said indifferently, you can go. If you had interfered when Hao Yue was evolving, this would have never happened. Thank you for forgiving us, Great Human King. The Lich King and Night of Judgment of the Dead bowed towards Long Houchen at the same time. Long Houchen sighed gently, you've heard what I just said earlier as well. If you can let go of your grievances, then please do. The 2 undead kings fell silent. A few seconds later, the Night of Judgment of the Dead said seriously, if you went through what we went through in the past, you'll understand why we can't let go of it. Thank you for forgiving us. Before we leave, I must warn you that although the Blood Pact has changed Austin Griffin very much, its innate character won't change. Once it awakens all of its powers, it might not be able to control itself. With that, the Night of Judgment of the Dead bowed towards Long Houchen once more, before leaving as 2 streaks of light with the Lich King. Once it fully awakens its powers. Long Houchen looked at Hao Yue in secret surprise. He was speechless. Had Hao Yue still not yet reached his complete form, despite becoming so powerful? It was also at this moment that a green light flashed near Long Houchen's chest. His heart skipped a beat. This is Yi Xiaolei's contract. Has something happened to Yi Xiaolei? Surprised, Long Houchen immediately patted Hao Yue's head and said, Hao Yue, you've just evolved, so stabilize your cultivation first. I'll be right back. As he said that, he quickly patted his chest and green light immediately appeared from there, blanketing his body in the blink of an eye. With a flash, he vanished. He did not even explain anything to his companions. He only said 3 words to Kia right before he left, Yi Xiaolei. The Night of Judgment of the Dead held the Lich King's withered hand and slowly flew through the air. Why did you block in front of me earlier? The Night of Judgment of the Dead suddenly asked seriously. The Lich King's sharp voice became gentle in that moment, we've lived for too long. I have no regret in dying with you, and you could have left before, did you know? When I blocked in front of you, I had stopped fearing Austin Griffin. When you didn't abandon me and faced against it with me, I knew that you still remember me, right? For all this time, you haven't taken care of me because of my superior strength, but because you've never forgotten me, just like how I've never forgotten you. You always refuse to admit it. This time, there's nowhere for you to hide. Augustine, do you still want to keep fooling me? The soulfire in the Night of Judgment of the Dead's eyes leapt up gently. Ina, why must you bring this up? We're both undead already. All we have left are our inextinguishable soulfire. My body's become so ugly, and I... Enough, don't say anything more. Ina said fiercely, why don't we deserve love just because we're undead? Why are you telling me this? That's just your disgusting ego haunting you. You were once a prince, but you've become an undead now, so you can't face yourself. Or are you saying that our love is only restricted to the flesh, where you won't admit it if there isn't the joining of flesh? No, of course not. The Night of Judgment of the Dead's pitch increased. Ina, it was me who failed to protect you back then. It was me who failed to guard your side during the most important times, allowing you to be killed right before me and become undead. I don't have the right to tell you that someone as ugly as me was once your lover. After I became undead, I was physically and mentally exhausted. All of my hopes were destroyed in that moment. It was just to protect you that I decided to survive, which was why I worked hard to become even stronger. How could I not love you? In my heart, no matter what you become, you are always my beloved Ina. Listening to the night of judgment of the dead Augustine's unhesitated confession, the Lich King Ina's soulfire softened. I love you too, my Augustine. It's already been more than 6,000 years. After that day of disaster, we all became undead. But after these 6,000 years, only one name still exists in my heart, and that's you, Augustine. Even though we're both undead, even though we have no future, I don't want to part with you ever again, even if there is only this world of black and red, my dear Augustine. As she said that, the Lich King gently leaned into the night of judgment of the dead's arms. They had no sense of touch, but in that moment, their soulfire seemed to mingle together, and the soulfire leapt even more gently. Green light gushed into the air as pillars, before slowly dissipating. The ground trembled and the forest groaned. Cracks just appeared in the air out of nowhere. The demon god emperor stood among the green pillars of light quietly, as he looked at a green, illusory figure in the distance. Stop struggling. I've already destroyed the illusory shrine. The illusory paradise will collapse very soon. The fairy dragon has died to my hands as well. Even if you've taken away its fairy heart, it's useless. The fairy dragon's fairy heart is the best recovery medicine there is. It basically can bring you back from the dead. However, it's useless to you. I know that you are the god left behind by the goddess of nature. It is an honor for you to be able to fuse with me soul. The demon god Emperor Fengshuo's voice was very gentle. Even though his surroundings were filled with spatial cracks, they did nothing to him. The green figure in the distance became clearer and clearer, as the aura of life from the pillars of green life grew weaker and weaker. Quit dreaming. Even if I have to blow it up, I won't give it to you. Yi Xiaolei's cold voice was filled with hatred. Her home had been destroyed and the fairy dragon, that had guarded the illusory shrine for all these years, had been killed as well. Her hatred for the demon god emperor had reached the limit. The demon god emperor smiled. Do you think you can blow up the god? Before me, anything you try is useless. I'm already half a god. Even if you blow up the god, I can reconstruct it and absorb it. I am the one in charge here. You're just using the spatial cracks that have appeared after the illusory paradise has shattered to make some time. I've waited for all these years, so I do have the patience to wait a little longer. Yi Xiaolei fell silent. She knew that the demon god emperor was telling the truth. He was just too powerful. When he had killed the fairy dragon, he actually became in control of everything. When Yi Xiaolian, who slumbered in the illusory shrine, felt the fairy dragon fall in battle, everything was already too late. The illusionary paradise was her home. Her roots were here. She was like a fruit growing on a great tree. If the tree died, then she would only be picked away, or she would have to die as well. Without a doubt, the demon god emperor had come to pick her. Can he save me? Yi Xiaoling was filled with sorrow. She did not know either. Even if he had really come, how was he supposed to save her from the demon god emperor? The demon god emperor was so powerful such that even if the goddess of nature was brought back there, she would not necessarily be able to defeat the demon god emperor. After all, the goddess of nature was not a god adept in battle. The demon god emperor stood with his hands behind his back, as he silently felt the aura of life that the illusory paradise gave off. His cultivation of spiritual energy had already reached a state where he had returned to simplicity. Even though the aura of life conflicted with his darkness, it did not affect him at all. It was possible to see from high up in the sky that a faint layer of violet-black color enveloped the entire area 50 kilometers away. No aura could pass through this barrier. As a result, even the nearby southern mountain pass was unable to discover anything going on here. But even if they did find out, so what? Who could stop the current demon god emperor? Looking at the distant horizon, the demon god emperor suddenly felt rather agitated, because his emotions actually became momentarily mixed. Was he really still alive? He thought about this piece of shocking news. Although the star demon god had guaranteed a second time that Long Houchen's aura was already gone, for some reason, his heart continued to weigh heavily after he had heard of this. Of course, he did not believe Long Houchen was still alive. He knew just too well whether he really did blow up Long Houchen's heart with that gesture of his finger with his cultivation. It was impossible for any accidents to happen. Did a necromancer resurrect him as undead? The demon god emperor could help, but let a fierce gleam of light flash through his eyes when he thought of that. No matter how much he wished Long Houchen to die, he still felt a special feeling towards Long Houchen. Only he was able to harm him. If a necromancer really had brought him back as undead, the demon god emperor would definitely make him understand the meaning of wishing he was dead. He would make the pain last for 1,000 years, tempering his soul until death. After all, he was that outstanding. When he thought of Long Houchen, the demon god emperor felt very helpless. He could even get Austin Griffin to form a blood pact with him. This was no longer something talent could achieve. Although the demon god emperor was not familiar with the process involved, he knew that Long Houchen must have succeeded under special circumstances. If it were not for Austin Griffin, would he be able to persuade him to return to the demons in the end, or even become his successor as demon god emperor? Perhaps not. He was just too stubborn. If he had known earlier, he should have taken Long Houchen back to the demons with him the first time he had seen him and begin twisting his thoughts back then. Only then would there be a chance. Thinking about this, the demon god emperor suddenly experienced a relieving sorrow, because he suddenly thought about how when Long Houchen died, he could clearly sense the bloodline that belonged to him flowing through Long Houchen's body gradually grow thin and die out as well. Even until now, he could not sense it at all. As the emperor of the demons and the head of the devil dragons, the demon god emperor had a very strong connection to his bloodline. For example, Arbao and Ling Xiao remained within his senses. As a matter of fact, the demon god emperor could sense as they grew stronger or weaker. The bloodline aura from Long Houchen had already vanished completely. He was dead after all. However, the news of his appearance was still worth investigating. Perhaps the humans had really allowed the existence of necromancers, and let these necromancers use Long Houchen's body. No, that shouldn't be the case. The more he thought, the messier the demon god emperor's thoughts became. However, he was a powerhouse after all. He already had a foot planted on the level of God. He calmed down very soon and returned his focus back to the situation before him. He had waited for this day for a very long time now. Ever since his cultivation broke through 1,000,000 spirit energy, he had been searching for a god. Only by borrowing the god could he completely remove the backlash of God that he suffered, and thus become a true god that was not bound to this realm. Once that happened, nothing could restrain him, so to him, this was an important opportunity. Even if the humans of this world cultivated to 1,000,000 spiritual energy, they would only become God by themselves, and upon doing so, their minds would gradually disperse across the world. They would be able to sense everything and govern everything, but they would no longer possess a body, nor could they influence the balance of the world. However, he was different. The demons came from other realms, which gave him the possibility of ignoring the principles of this world. However, he could not become a god by himself. Thinking about this, the demon god emperor was suddenly overcome by a burning desire. He had to succeed today. Once he succeeded, he would become an unprecedented god of this realm. By then, it would no longer be possible for the humans to keep resisting. After he had unified the world, it might be time for him to return to his original realm. Who knew what it had become now? The green light gradually dimmed, while the pure and QT Xiaolei gradually appeared from the green light completely. She was 100 meters away from the demon god emperor. The spatial cracks began to close up and vanish, as the tremendous aura of life silently permeated the vast forest. However, it was unable to break through the demon god emperor's seal. What comforting aura of life! Unfortunately, it doesn't suit me, the demon god emperor smiled and walked towards Yi Xiaolei. Yi Xiaolei stood there quietly, as she stared at the demon god emperor coldly. Her soft, white hands became tightly clenched unknowingly, as she bit her bottom lip gently. She watched the tall, handsome and enchanting figure walk over step by step, while she remained where she was. The illusory shrine was destroyed and the illusory paradise was gone. From that moment onwards, she had completely lost her home. When she thought about the reluctance in the consciousness of the fairy dragon, before it had died, 2 droplets of tears slowly rolled down her cheeks. It was gone. It was all gone. The demon god emperor slowly arrived 10 meters before her and stopped. He extended his hand towards her. Come with me. Don't worry, I won't harm you. You just need to want to become my god from the bottom of your heart, and I can even leave your memory intact. Come with me. I will let you witness many wonders and marvels. It'll also give the Xingmo Dalu a true god. Yi Xiaolei stared at the demon god emperor with her moist eyes. She could see a hint of sincerity in the depths of his eyes. Upon reaching his cultivation, the demon god emperor had already let go of all darkness. To him, many things that ordinary people found to be important no longer mattered. The things he wanted had already reached a completely different level. I've waited for a very long time now. I don't want to keep waiting. I hope to obtain a god with self-consciousness. That way, I won't have to be lonely in the future millennia to come. What do you think? Actually, joy and sorrow is only temporary most of the time. Time will dilute it all. Once you have witnessed many different worlds with me, you will end up forgetting the past. Come with me. I think you won't regret it. The demon god emperor spoke very softly, and he maintained a slight smile the entire time. His gaze was filled with gentleness, just like a father calling for his daughter. Yi Xiaolei's gaze gradually became lost. Finally, she raised her left foot and took a step forward slowly. Afterwards, she began to walk towards the demon god emperor just as slowly. The demon god emperor's smile grew deeper. Fusing with an obedient god was much easier than one that resisted, and the benefits that it would bring to the stability of his cultivation would obviously be different as well. Of course, everything he said to Yi Xiaolei came from the bottom of his heart. It was all sincere. It was exactly because of that he was able to confuse her the most. He never treated Yi Xiaolei as a threat in the first place. Once she had merged into his powers, she posed even less of a threat. So what if her consciousness remained? This video will end here.